Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where we are celebrating 100 subscribers. Today we're talking about Relativity Space. This company is really impressive and has a lot of potential. I promise the title of this video isn't clickbait, and I'm about to explain why. So what is Relativity Space? It's an aerospace manufacturing company based in Los Angeles, founded in 2015 by Tim Ellis and Jordan Noone, revolutionizing how rockets are manufactured and launched. So, you know how Rocket Lab is 3D printing their engines? Well, Relativity took that concept and went a bit overboard. Yeah, they plan to 3D print 100% of their rockets. There are several pros and cons to this approach, but I believe the pros outweigh the cons, which I'll get to later. But more about Relativity. They're taking over a former Boeing C-17 production plant and have access to conduct activities at Stennis Space Center in Mississippi. Their flagship rocket will be the Terran 1, which will be able to carry over 1,200 kilograms to low Earth orbit for a price tag of $12 million. So this is larger than other rockets such as the Electron or Rocket 3. In fact, a single Terran 1 is the equivalent of 2 Rocket 3s, 2 Electrons, and a single Launcher 1. So for a starter rocket, this guy is pretty big, and I probably wouldn't recommend that a company's first orbital rocket were any bigger than this. Blue Origin. New Glenn. I am so sorry, guys. I don't know what came over me. Anyway, Relativity hopes to launch the Terran 1 by the end of this year, so that should be pretty exciting. Relativity's total funding in 2021 was a bit over $1.3 billion, which will help the company develop a fully reusable medium-lift launch vehicle called Terran R. This rocket will be able to compete directly with SpaceX's Falcon 9, and if they're really able to make it fully and rapidly reusable like they plan to, it will even be able to compete directly with the infamous Starship, and Terran R will aim to launch in 2024. So that's Relativity in a nutshell. Now let's take a look at the pros and cons of their bold approach of fully embracing 3D printing technology. Relativity claims that this approach will allow them to achieve a production time that is 10 times faster than the industry standard and produce rockets with 100 times fewer parts. So Relativity should be able to go from raw materials to launch in as little as 60 days. And their rockets will be 100 times simpler and will thus have far fewer points of failure. This will allow Relativity's rockets to be cheaper and more reliable than alternatives. I have a few more positive things to say about the 3D printing approach to rocket building, but let's take a quick detour to discuss the main drawback of this strategy. And I'll actually let Astra's CEO explain what that drawback is.
Yeah, so what's with the deal with avoiding 3D printing? Because that's very popular in a lot of spaceflight companies these days.
Well, it's the most expensive way to make anything, right? If you took a 3D printing machine, and a lot of these machines that print metal can cost upwards of $2-3 million, and you put a part like a rocket engine on that machine, it can take days, up to a week, to print a large part. And so you've got a machine that costs millions of dollars tied up for a week printing a single part. You can take that same part and you can stamp it, you can mold it, you can machine it for a fraction of that cost. And so while 3D printing is great for making one of something, if you want to make hundreds or thousands of something, it's incredibly expensive and time consuming. You don't see Tesla 3D printing cars. You don't see Apple 3D printing iPhones. It just doesn't make any sense economically if you want to make a business that has any profitability or any ability to scale.
So, Chris Kemp is right. 3D printing is just about the most expensive way to make anything. However, there are a couple of counter-arguments which I think make this problem irrelevant. So, the first thing is that while 3D printing isn't great for mass production, it is great for iteration. So, if Relativity finds that there's anything wrong with one of their rockets, they can fix it without having to worry about updating their manufacturing techniques or getting new tooling. The second thing is that the cost of production will be negligible if they can actually reuse their rockets. So that's really the only bad thing I found to say about Relativity, and it's not even that bad. Their business model makes a lot of sense. And if you've gotten this far into the video, please consider liking it so somebody from Relativity can see this and I can maybe land a summer internship. So I really like Relativity Space. If I had to pick which company actually had the best chance of threatening SpaceX, it would either be Relativity Space or ULA. So that means, compared to Blue Origin, Rocket Lab, Astra, Virgin Orbit, or any other launch startup, I like Relativity the most. So Relativity is still not a publicly traded company, but we can make some pretty good guesses on when it will go public. We can be pretty confident that they will IPO sooner than later because they're going to need all the money they can get in order to develop Terran R. So that instantly narrows it down. If we assume that they need to go public to raise enough money to build something as sophisticated as Terran R, and Terran R is launching in 2024, we can assume the IPO will be no later than 2023. But I honestly don't think they'll even wait that long. The only thing that is likely holding Relativity back is that they haven't launched their flagship rocket yet. As soon as Terran 1 launches, and Relativity is able to provide concrete proof to investors that they are capable of making it to orbit, they'll have a much easier time attracting capital, and that's when we'll likely see them go public. So based on that criteria, we could see Relativity's IPO as early as the start of 2022 after Terran 1 launches, or as late as mid-2023 if it takes them a couple launches to get to orbit or there's some other factor on the financial side of the business that slows them down. So I know it sucks that we can't invest in Relativity Space quite yet, but while you're waiting for Relativity to IPO, you can look into some other, lesser known but equally promising public space companies to invest in. Check out Unearthly Invest because he has some great videos on that exact topic. Top link in the description. Okay, bye!